Fint. It's a nice conference setting.
The first reason that you may think of already is the climate. So we know that the world is heading towards a climate crisis. We have a carbon budget, we have a limited amount of CO2 emissions that we can emit, and we're really heading towards breaking that budget. And a good way to look at this is to look at something called developed resources. So developed resources are resources of coal, oil, and gas that have been planned to take up from the ground and presumably used. So emissions that there may be a state have made some decision, or a company has made a decision, you've found resources and you're going to take it up. And if you look at all of the coal, oil, and gas that are developed today, that's actually, if we burn all of those, then we won't even meet the 2-degree goal. And that's not even the goal. The IPCC is really clear that 1.5 degrees global warming, that's the max. We can't go further than that. And in our lawsuit, we say that if I go around with 1.5 degrees warming as a citizen, my right to a healthy environment has been breached. So then the Norwegian government has failed. And in the same way as if I didn't get to go to school as when I was a kid, breaching that agreement, breaching that law, makes me entitled to a lawsuit. But even worse, the Norwegian plans to look for oil in the Arctic, they're not even in this graph. The Norwegian government wants to make that graph even higher because they want to look for new oil that we will start extracting in at least 11 years. So today, Norway already has oil fields that can produce oil until 2070. And that's already, they already have the permits. And I mean, the plans, if they do find oil, which they haven't yet, but if they do, the plans are to go on much longer than that. So the last report from the IPCC told us that we need to be carbon neutral by 2050. So we really see two scenarios. Either Norway keeps selling oil to a world that tries to stop using oil. And by that means that we are really contributing to not meeting the climate goals. The other scenario is that the world actually does a really good job and we meet all of our climate goals, and then we have spent billions of kroners on oil fields and no one wants to buy the oil. And the thing is that the way the Norwegian oil tax system is built up, the state will have to pay for that. So you may be aware that we take in a lot of taxes and make a lot of money from oil, but it also means that if they don't make a revenue, the oil companies, then the state has to pay. It goes both ways. So that's the main argument. It's really about the climate. But we also want to emphasize that this is also about the natural environment in the Arctic. There has been a lot of reports recently, this year even, on the importance of the Arctic ecosystem and of the ice. We now know that the area around the ice is really important to over 1,000 species. And it's bird, it's fish, it's algae that grow up in this very specific environment. And they have niches that are only there. You have special types of fish that move between the ice. So they will be a predator and they will go under the ice and they will get back. And you have all of these niches creating a really important environment with a high degree of production, of primary production. And I talked to you earlier about the Lofoten Islands that we have saved. And one of the biggest arguments for saving Lofoten from the oil industry was the cod that we fish in Lofoten. But the cod, they go down to Lofoten when they're teenagers. But when they grow up and get older, they do that up in the Arctic. That's where they eat, and if the Arctic ecosystem fails, then the cod will fail. So then it doesn't really matter if we save the Lofoten, because we will lose the fish anyways. So this is really both about a climate and a vulnerable and important ecosystem in the Arctic. So that's what we're arguing in court. I forgot about this one, but this is a graph showing why it's important that Norway cuts the oil emissions